The masks that you'll be putting together are printed on MakerBot 3D printers, and they're made of PLA plastic, which is melted and squirted out of a nozzle and built up layer upon layer. So in the finished mask, you can see the actual layers are built on top of what's called a raft, and the raft needs to be removed first. That's the correct orientation up, and you can see the small tiny layers of plastic. And what we're going to do is take a knife, not necessarily a sharp knife, but a butter knife would work, and place it between the object and the raft, and basically press down. We're not going to be cutting so much as wedging those two apart from each other. And this may be done for you ahead of time, but if the raft is still there, you'll have to do that. Then, when you receive the mask, for sure, you will see lots of texture and little hairs and threads. All of those need to be scraped off. You can use the back of a knife. You don't have to use the top, or a sharp edge, rather. You can use a spoon even, probably, to do this. And don't be afraid to break the mask. You just want to scrape and try to get as much of that texture off as you possibly can. The next step is going to be installing the gasket to seal the mask. So I've cut the material to length, and you can see that the gasket is 15 inches, and you can see the profile of it is a little bit of a key shape that will fit into the slot on the edge of the mask and not pull out easily. So basically you want to start at the very bottom middle and press that wedge-shaped or key-shaped flange on the bottom of the gasket into that slot and work your way around. It takes a while to figure out a technique that works well, but the more you practice, the better you get at it. So I'm looking at both sides, inside and outside, because I want to make sure that I'm pushing that fully into the slot. And work your way around. And again, this is going to take some time, but the more that you do it, the faster you'll get. This is sped up, so don't want you to be jealous there. So when you get all the way around, you want to go back and double check and make sure everything is fully in. You can see these on the inside here are puckered up. That means they're not pushed in all the way. I'm going to go ahead and finish pushing them in, and again check all the way around, because if we need to redo anything, we want to do that before we cut the final piece of the gasket. We want to leave it a little bit long if possible. So when we cut it, we need to also not cut it too short. So we can always cut more off, but you can't make it any longer. So go ahead and be conservative about how much you cut, and you want it to ideally butt up against the other piece and press tightly to make a good seal. So work it back into place, check the fit, make sure that you've got pretty good even edge there, and if you need to cut it again, you've got just a little bit more that you can take off. And we will be trying to ensure that that doesn't open up, that split in the gasket. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a piece of silicone tubing that is smaller. It's the outside diameter is the same as the inside diameter of the larger tubing, and we're going to pull up a bit of that. I'm going to trim that one more time to make sure it's nice and square so that it fits up against the other piece just a tiny little bit, and I'm going to press that smaller silicone tubing into the larger, about halfway. It's only about 1 inch long, so about halfway in, half an inch in, and then reseat the gasket in the groove in that slot there, and we're going to again tuck it all in nice and tight and check it inside and out and keep pressing, and we want a nice tight seal there. We don't want a gap which would let air in. So that's a good seal. So the next step would be to put on the rest of the pieces, and that's going to be the straps first, so those other parts don't get in the way. So I'm cutting the strap about in half, but only about 1 inch or so long, so there's a diagonal cut, and that is so that it will fit into the slot where the straps go. I'm going to pull it out a little too far and then tuck in the end and push down with my thumb. And what I'm trying to do is get the friction of the silicone rubber to grab onto itself. You may have to try a couple times, and you'll finally get it there, and that friction will pull the little end out, and you can then tug on it and tighten it up. You don't need it to be too long. You want to keep it tight because it can always be adjusted. And I'm going to cut the other end at an angle as well. Again, about halfway and about 1 inch long. And I'm going to tuck it into the slot and pull it out. Again, pull it a little too far so that you can tuck that end back in and press down and pull and use the friction of the rubber against itself to pull it through, and then you can kind of tighten it up and adjust it. So that's the upper headband. Now we need the band that goes on the neck. That's going to be the shorter piece, and we're going to trim the end of it, and about half the width and about 1 inch long. And if you don't trim enough, you won't be able to get it through. So you may need to adjust that. And here I've got to cut just a little bit more off, and another trim with the scissors, and now it should go through, and I'm pushing it through, pulling it out, again further than I need it to be at first, and that is so I have room to tuck it back in the hole and push with my thumb down and pull the strap out, and that is going to grab it and pull it out. The other end of the strap is not going to be cut to a point. It's going to fit through this buckle hook, and we want to push it through from the bottom or the back side, and then turn it and push it through the other direction. So the orientation of the hook will be like so, and when we tug on it, you can just clip it in there, and that will be a quick way to get the mask off and on. Otherwise the neck piece is too small to get over your head. So all that's left is put the ring on the retainer for the filter, and we're going to give it a spin, a few spins back and forth, kind of grind it on there to smooth everything out, make sure it all fits well. Tuck the straps into the mask, and we are finished.